Hello, my name is Takaze and I speedrun Child of Light. In this video, I will be showing you how to play the new game any percent category for this run. And to get started, I'll go over some of the pre-game options you'll want to look at. Battle speed 5, skip battle intros on, tutorials off. We'll be playing on casual for this run. Set the volume and resolution to whatever you'd like. We don't start the timer until we selected the difficulty, which is in a few seconds, right about now.
Child, cut yourself in bed and let me tell a story of Lemuria, a long-lost kingdom, and a girl born for glory. In Austria was a crown land ruled by a duke. Aurora was his daughter, child of a duchess mysterious, beloved by her father. He raised the girl alone, they were rarely apart, till the duke felt lonely and misplaced his heart. It was the Great Friday before Easter 1895. Prayers performed for the duke, his new bride at his side. That night Aurora went to sleep, the fire burned down low. She caught a chill that spread, her skin was cold as snow. At dawn they found her, vacant, Aurora's light gone out. Her father wept and pleaded, but there could be no doubt. For all intents and purposes, Aurora was dead. And yet, once upon a time, she awoke in a strange land instead.
Okay, so we'll actually start to get playing in a second here. The timer will be probably around 2 minutes and 20 seconds to 2 minutes and 30 seconds once the roar gets to start moving. So you notice that I'm jumping around. This is actually faster than just running. And the way that we do these jumps so that we keep the fastest speed is by doing short little hops, and then as soon as we start to land, we do another hop. And this is so we get to keep all our forward momentum. It takes a little bit of timing and getting used to, but you'll get it. So you see here when you can kind of see the difference and even hear the difference between a successful hop that I make and an unsuccessful one. So it just takes timing. Get used to it. You'll get it. And here is our first in-game cutscene, and we mean Aniculus. He's our Firefly for the remainder of the run. But there'll be some text boxes that we'll mash through as quickly as possible. And then we go back to running around, or jumping around, I should say. And here you'll see me just try to do an example of a failed jump that is kind of slow, and the quick little jumps. Again, you can hear and see the difference between the two. It just takes getting used to. So coming up here, we'll have our first light puzzle, and I go to the center just so I can do it nice and slowly so you can see. But really the only trick to doing this is just figuring out where to have Aniculus for each set of the puzzle. But other than that, just do it quickly and keep going forward. So we'll have our first fight in a second here, and you should already know that Aniculus can be used to slow enemies. But for the first few seconds of this fight, we don't want to bother doing that. We just want to do a slash without slowing the cricket. We'll have about a 50-50 chance of getting this interrupt, and if we manage to get it, we save about 5 seconds, but it's pure RNG. After getting the first slash, then we can start slowing. With this next cricket, we'll be getting a surprise attack, and we don't have to worry about that, so just start slowing the cricket as soon as the fight starts. And again, we should kill it before it gets a turn off. And the second cricket will be leveling up for the first time. For Aurora, we'll be putting our points into the Starlight tree, which is the one on the left. And these are the only points that we put into Aurora, so don't worry about doing anything with the other trees. We'll have our last non-required fight in a second here. This is the only grinding that we do in the game, are these 2 not required crickets. And we have enough damage to just kill them in one hit now, so... unfortunately, sometimes this happens. They have a really, really low percent chance to dodge. I want to say it's 1%. So you shouldn't have to plan for that. And if I was going for a really good time, I'd probably just be frustrated and reset there. It is only a few seconds time loss though. And again, if you've played the game before, you should know that you can use Aniculus outside of battles to just cause the monsters to not bother to fight you. We'll be doing that quite a number of times because, again, that we've done all the grinding in this game. If we ever get any fights that aren't bosses at this point or mini bosses, just flee from them if you accidentally run into one. Just keep moving forward, get these jumps down nicely, avoid this fight. If you're having trouble with the first boss, if you kind of jump on that fountain and go a little above, there is a guaranteed ruby alkali that we can pick up. You can put it on Aurora for 4 extra HP. I find it to be pretty unnecessary. Once you learn the statues fight, it goes pretty smoothly. So coming up here, we'll have the first trick of the run that we use to save some time. We call it the box jump, and it's this first puzzle room where you have to push some boxes around to get to a switch to activate an elevator. Though I'll show you first the intended way to do it if you've forgotten, and then I'll show you the speedrun guide of it. But ultimately, if you can't get this, if you're struggling with getting this, it's only about a 15 to 20 second time difference. So for your first 3 runs, if you're having some trouble learning it, just do the intended strat. It's no big deal. Just try to practice the box jump once you've gotten a few runs under your belt, and get to save some extra time. So that was pretty slow. We can save more time than that. And again, I'll have a link on the video so you can see the more detailed strat of how we do this. But basically, we want to get this box as close to the ledge without falling off. That looks pretty good, well, a little bit more. And then we want to basically just do a jump off the edge of the edge of the box. And again, we want to do these nice timed jumps so that we keep all our forward momentum. It takes a little bit to get used to practice it. So you can make a save file here and just keep going over it and over and over until you have it comfortably. I even messed it up once, but you can get it on your second or third try and still saves plenty of time. But if you can't get it, just do the intended strat. Take that 15-20 second time loss and just keep moving forward in the run. So here we come up on the first boss of the run, the statue fight. Before we can fight the statues, we have another light puzzle to do. We can do the red light while we're still down here. So just try to do it while you're still running off to the right. And then we have a little cutscene, and then we do the blue and green ones next. So I think this boss is actually a really good kind of tutorial fight for how the rest of the speedrun will work. And it's essentially just trying to prevent the bosses from getting to do anything. So there are two statues. We kill the back one first with 3 starlights. I don't slow at the start. As soon as Aurora gets that first cast of starlight off, we start slowing the back statue. To be able to do 3 starlights, though, we will need to collect some MP from the 2 flowers. Otherwise, we only have the MP for 2. So just keep slowing the back statue and get the flowers to get that enough MP. You can kind of pause while you're taking a turn. If everything goes well, the statue should die without doing anything. And then it's just about slashing the statue to death. We don't want to keep the statue slowed, because otherwise the ATB doesn't work in our favor. So we only want to slow just enough so Aurora catches up. So you see me doing it at the bottom. I slow a little bit, Aurora catches up on the bar, I stop slowing. I slow a little bit, Aurora catches up on the bar, I stop slowing. And just do this 7 times. On the 6th or 7th time, you may run out of Aniculus. So just the flowers should be popping up soon. If for some reason something goes bad, you do have a healing potion that you should have picked up earlier. Throw the healing potion on, and this fight should be pretty straightforward. I didn't mention it, but you want to split as soon as you come back to outside of the battle. So as soon as you see the outside world, we can split there. Coming up here, we'll have 2 cutscene skips that are pretty straightforward to do. We just close out of the game at particular times. So the first time, we're closing out of the game. As soon as the narrator says once, just close out of the game, Alt F4. If you're using a console, you should be able to quit out of the game. The nice thing about this run is all these strats that we do work no matter what platform you're playing the game on. They're confirmed to work on PS3, Xbox 360. I'm not 100% sure if it works on the Wii U version, but I would imagine it does. So just load the game back up, and we'll have some text to skip through, and then we'll do another cutscene skip. So just blow through this text as quickly as possible. And the next visual cue for getting this cutscene skip is as soon as Aurora starts looking up, we close out of the game. So you saw her look up at the stars, and we close out of the game, open it back up, load our save file, and we get to continue moving forward. There'll be some chests that we pick up here, which are actually optional, but the reason we pick them up is because if we go too quickly here, the game can actually soft lock. So we get this chest. Go ahead and get that MP Stardust. It's pretty free. This chest, and if we don't get this cutscene, if you've gone through this section and you're not getting this cutscene right now, you have to go back and make sure you get that cutscene. The game will soft lock if you basically can't move forward. You can't do the next boss fight, and you have to come back all the way here to activate this cutscene. So take the second if you're going too fast. You need to slow down just a little bit. We get our first party member, Rubella, here, but we just need to blow through these text boxes again as quickly as possible. If you're playing this game casually, I would recommend reading all these, all the dialogue. They're really cute. So it's a really fun game to play casually if you haven't already. Which again, you probably should have if you're watching this run. So. Going through this section, we just go straight. There'll be a few chests that we can pick up along the way. Once we see that Banshee, it signals that there's this little tunnel for us to go through, and we get a Strength Stardust as a reward for going through that tunnel. Again, we're just going past all the enemies that we see, trying to just get to the next boss as quickly as possible. There's a lot of chests and stuff that you can get, but I'm only getting the ones that are along the way and take no time to get. Because remember, we can pick up boxes with Aniculus, so all these boxes I'm getting are essentially free, so there's really no reason not to. So before the boss fight, we level up, put points into the Starlight Tree. Rubella, I like putting points into the Tumble Tree. You can get Revive if you'd like to. Stardust, we use a Magic Stardust and an MP Stardust on Aurora. Don't do anything to that Strength Stardust. Hang on to it. And we're starting our second boss fight, the Giant. So this Giant comes with 2 wolves that we'll want to kill before focusing our attention onto the Giant. We do a combination of 2 Starlights and a Tumble, or 2 Tumbles and a Starlight on the wolves to kill them. The one RNG factor in this fight, to start of the fight rather, is who starts first. Rubella can start first or Aurora can start first. And I prefer Rubella to start first just because things line up a little bit better. So we get this first wolf killed. Focus our attention onto the second wolf. We will have to pick up some MP for Aurora to do more Starlights. But all this time I've been keeping the Giant slowed, and the Giant does a lot of damage, and sometimes Rubella needs to take some time to interrupt the Giant just to prevent it from getting turns off. But we want these wolves to die as quickly as possible, and once that happens we can easily get interrupts off on the Giant. So the Giant has... its Gathering Strength move is just a single target attack, so we can just focus on it. If you're paying attention, you should be able to interrupt it, though. So just take your time whenever you have an action to make. Make sure you've gotten all the flowers. We get an interrupt here. We can do another interrupt here. Again, we want to prevent the bosses from ever doing anything. You have to remember that Rubella is really fast, and it can... sometimes be hard to interrupt with Rubella just because she is so fast. But sometimes it works out really nicely. You just have to keep in mind of how fast the enemies are, how fast your characters are. But this fight's gone really well. Sometimes the Giant will get a few turns in, and Aurora can die pretty easily, but it's perfectly okay for Aurora to die. Dead characters still get XP, so don't worry about it too much. It's a little bit of a time loss if it happens, but just keep moving forward. If you've gotten Revive with Rubella and Aurora dies before the wolves die, I would recommend reviving her just to make the fight manageable. So in this section, we're just going past every treasure, every monster. Just ignore everything and get to the next trick in the game called the Fin Skip. So normally you would get Finn in your party by doing his side quest where you go into a well, kill a boss, cutscenes, and he joins your party. So we do this trick where we get to keep him in our party without doing all of that. So we start by talking to Finn as you normally would, but then when you go up to the well, you want to pause and press the action button essentially at the same time. And this activates the cutscene while you're in the pause menu. And as we're in the pause menu, you teleport away. And you go through the text as the cutscene normally would allow you to. Finn joins your party, and then it will start loading the map. We close out of the game once we see the words loading. and then we open the game back up. We teleport back to the village, and if we've done everything well, then Finn should be in our party. We've tricked the game into giving us Finn without teleporting into the well. I should have a video linked off to the side which details this trick a little bit more. It can be a little bit tricky. It does work on consoles, but the loading times will be different based on if you're using a PC or a console, so it can be a little tricky to get sometimes. So we're just moving forward with this win section. Your first few times, just take the safety way. Get this magic defense Stardust by going up into that little hidden tunnel. You can get through that win section in a single cycle if you're quick enough. So this next section is just a whole lot of movement. There will be a few treasures to get, and I'll outline a few safety treasures that you can get that can help you out on your first few run if you're having a little bit of trouble or you're still learning. But the first thing to note is when we come out of this little cutscene, go straight ahead, do not go down, otherwise we activate another cutscene. So again, do not go down here. This is the easiest thing in the world to do. Do not go down. So the first safety treasure that we can get is right in here. It's 2 potent healing potions. The next safety treasure we can get is some Lol elixirs. And above here, there will be some more potent healing potions. I don't get them because they take some time to get, and I don't really find them necessary. But on your first few runs, you'll probably heal more, and the Lol elixirs can really help out while you're struggling on some of the first few bosses that we'll see. Spider boss and Cordelia can be really tricky, so I would recommend just get them. It doesn't take that much time, and it can certainly save time if things get a little out of hand. So we get Nora here, and Nora's a really cool character. It's unfortunate that we only have her for a little bit of the run. Free HP Stardust, and in this section you can kind of do a little shortcut, but if you can't get that shortcut, if you're not fast enough, you can just take the slow way. It only takes a few extra seconds. Try not to get hit. Go past this rock dude, and we get some quicken elixirs. I do pick those up in my runs because they're essentially free. I also pick up these magic potions because essentially they're free. Do this little puzzle, activate some switches, open some doors, and continue forward. Don't run into enemies. So down here is a Strength Stardust if you choose to get it. There are 2 chests here that have a few oculi in them. The first has a tumbled oculi, the second has some rough oculi. Depending on what we get in them, since the contents are somewhat random, we can use in some of the fights if you're struggling a little bit, but they are completely optional. There's another one up here that'll have 2 rough oculi in them. Again, these are purely optional. I don't get them most of the time, but they can sometimes help out on some of the fights if you're struggling a little bit. There's this chest with the fairy nectars. It's free. You should get it. And coming up here, we'll be ending the Magna section, which is the only point that we end a split, or that I end a split, that isn't directly after a boss. So I'd just like to point that out once it comes up. It'll be once this transition happens from this screen to the next screen, so once it fades from black, and we can actually start seeing stuff, which is right about now. This next split coming up, the Spider Split, where we go inside Magna, is the longest split in the game where we're constantly doing stuff. Very little cutscenes, just a bunch of fights. Normally we only have 1 fight to do per split, but this split we have 4 fights to do. So it can be pretty RNG based on how the fights go, how well the spiders are treating you. For treasures, these first 2 treasures that we get are pretty important. This third treasure that you see me get is optional, but it's a safety, so go ahead and grab it if it's the first few times running it. These next 2 treasures, go ahead and get because they're free. Just try to avoid those fireballs. No big deal if you take damage from them, as long as Aurora doesn't die from the fireballs, you'll be fine. We don't actually use Aurora in these next few fights, so don't worry about it too much. We can go left, right, or down. I choose to go left because that's the way I prefer. It doesn't matter though. These 2 treasures that we get are pretty free because we're trying to wait for these fireballs to pass. Strength Stardust on Robert. We level up Robert and Nora. Robert put points into the Hinder tree. Nora put 8 points into the Lull tree. And 2 points into the Defense tree to get Unstoppable. Unstoppable is pretty important, don't forget it. So we want to get a surprise attack here, so we sneak behind it. Switch to Nora first here, because I prefer Nora to start first in these fights. Start slowing the back spider, whichever one is the furthest on the bar. Do lull all and rain arrows. Hopefully you'll get 2 interrupts on this first turn. On Nora's second turn, we can sneak in a quicken, and this just allows Robert to constantly rain arrows. Get as many interrupts off as possible. The more interrupts you get off, the better this fight's going to go. On Nora's third turn, just whack at something. Whatever hasn't gotten critted or whatever's turn's about to get snuck in. Spiders are going to get a chance to go here. Hopefully they won't use their slow ability, and hopefully they won't hit Robert while he's trying to get rain arrows off. So we got a little bit of good RNG there. Spider should die soon here, though. And overall, this has been a pretty good spider fight. The next spider fight, we won't get to decide who goes first. But I'll make it so that Robert goes first, just so you can see how that pans out. The first and second spider fights are the same. They're the same 3 spiders. We're not even going to bother scaling up on the second spider. So same strategies work for both. We can get that Magic Defense Stardust during this little cutscene. Doesn't take any time to get. We've gotten our first Oculi, so the game tries to teach us about Oculi, so we have to close out of that. Try to dodge as many fireballs as you can without taking too much time. It's fine to go a little slow, just so you don't bonk on walls and stuff like that. There is a free Defense Stardust here. Well, not terribly important. It can be a little nice later on in the run. It's pretty free, so might as well get it. There's this damage elixir. So for the second fight, Robert starts first. So we have a slightly different strategy, where instead of lulling all with Nora, we do Unstoppable onto Robert. That just makes it so the ATB lines up better. Robert can get hit here, and he doesn't happen to get hit. But if he were to get hit and he got interrupted, that's really, really annoying, especially if he gets slowed. But second turn, we do Quicken again onto Robert. And now that Robert's unstoppable, we don't care too much if he gets hit. He doesn't get interrupted, which is great. He got hit twice there, we didn't get interrupted. The rest of the fight, just get those rain arrows off. If Robert happens to get slowed on either of these fights, you have some Quicken elixirs to use. You have Quicken on Nora to use. Try to break that slow. That fight went really well. that was probably one of the better Robert starts I've had in a while. We got a crit onto each of the spiders, so it took a whole turn faster, which is great. If you didn't pick up that chest before the fight, go ahead and pick it up after. It doesn't matter which. So we've gone left, we've gone right, now we go down. When we go down, we have to do a little side quest for Robert. So unlike Finn, where we got to have Finn without doing his side quest, we have to do this side quest to keep Robert. Robert's really useful, and this side quest really doesn't take a whole lot of time. It's essentially just a little puzzle, if you want to even call it that, and a bunch of cutscenes. So go ahead and do this. So there'll be 2 switches on either side. If you've already done the game, you should know how to do it. If you've forgotten how to do it quickly, you just activate the switch on the right twice, activate the switch on the left twice, and that's it. Doesn't even matter which order you do it in. And then once the switches are activated, you just light up the things that pop out, and we get to open up the room. The room will have 4 treasures in them. Normally, I don't pick up all the treasures. You can even not pick up any of the treasures. None of them are required, but I would go ahead and pick up all of them if it's your first few runs. It doesn't particularly matter. There's some fairy potions, fairy nectars rather, some non-optional oculi, but they can be useful. There's also some revives which can help you out in a pinch. On this third and final mini spiders fight, we will actually want to level up beforehand. So we level up Nora and Robert. Nora, we just get up to Petrify All, and then we start working on that 3rd tree we haven't touched yet. Get the Surprise Strike. So the same strategy applies depending on who starts first. Nora started first, we do a Lull All. Robert only knows how to rain arrows here, so just do rain arrows. Unfortunately, this fight didn't work out too well in my favor, but it happens sometimes. I think I get double interrupted here. Double interrupted, double slowed. The worst thing that you can hope for. I was trying to get a Petrify All on the spiders with Nora. That's the new move she learned. But because that happened, because Robert got slowed, I need to break that slow. Gotta use Quicken on him. The rest of the fight goes okay. Just try to keep the spiders slowed as much as possible. See me mess up a little bit here, but it's no big deal. If somebody needs a little bit of healing, you should have plenty of potions. Don't forget the flowers if you need it. Just try to use Petrify All when you can, rain arrows when you can, and this fight should go smoothly. We have a little bit more damage than we did in the first 2 spiders, so this should be the easiest fight of the 3, but this is turning to be the hardest one, just because the way things lined up. And now we're done with these 3 spiders. We have the big boss spider to do. We'll have to remember to level up everybody. We have some oculi menuing to do, where we craft a new oculi, and that's really one of the few times in this game where we'll actually do some oculi crafting. So you'll see me do that in a second here. We'll want to remember to level up everybody. Nora goes down the Starlight Tree. Robert, more points into Hinder Tree. Nora, we put more points into the Quicken Tree, so we've gotten points into all 3 of her trees. So we should have Charm Time now. Finn goes into Lightning Tree. And Rubella just puts more points into the Temple Tree. We'll have some leftover points, so might as well get Revive. We don't have any Stardust to use, so no bother about that. I almost forgot here, but we will need to do some oculi crafting. We'll be making a rough onyx, which is a rough tourmaline, rough citrine, rough amethyst, and we'll equip it to Finn's weapon slot. This gives us some extra spell power. We can get into the fight. So there'll be 2 mini spiders that we'll have to kill. I'll be doing a easier strat, in my opinion, where I use Rubella and Robert. Robert rain arrows, keep the boss slowed, switch out to Rubella. I bring Rubella out for ailment protection, all. This can really cut down on some of the RNG in this fight. Robert's second turn I need to defend, otherwise he's just going to get hit and take a bunch of damage, so might as well just defend with him. And then we use Tumble All with Rubella and rain arrows with Robert. And we do this so that we kill these spiders off. Something very important to note, do not interrupt the big spider here. If you do, she'll quicken everybody, and it's really frustrating to deal with. So you saw me defend with Robert there, because if I decided to attack with him, it would have interrupted the big spider. Small spiders should be dead soon, I think, on this next tumble. And then we bring out Finn to do the damage onto the big spider. So Finn will be using Lightning Strike. And again, we don't want to interrupt here, so I actually messed up. I forgot that it was going to use its AoE attack. Nora we can bring out here for a lull to make things a little bit more manageable for us. And I can also quicken Finn to just get his turns off faster. Then what I'll want to do after those 2 turns with Nora is bring out Aurora to use Elevate damage onto Finn, just because Finn does much more damage than anybody else at this point. Don't forget about those flowers when you need to, and again, don't interrupt the boss. If you do interrupt the big spider and you picked up those lull elixirs, this is a great time to use them, and it can be a little tricky to learn this fight at the start, so go ahead and use them. If you've picked up both the safety lull elixirs, you should have 4. So if you're looking to do something with Aurora, you can squeeze in a Starlight. Just again, don't interrupt the boss. So sometimes Finn won't have enough mana. Oops, I've accidentally interrupted the boss. So I messed up. Finn ran out of mana. Finn got paralyzed. That's the worst thing that can happen. It does unfortunately happen. So you see me using a little elixir to make the fight more manageable. I pretty much just have to wait for Finn to break out of his paralyze. You can also bring out Robert, who has an antidote spell, which I always forget to use, but it's no big deal just to wait for it. If Aurora gets paralyzed, that's not so bad. You just have to have Finn doing everything himself. If Robert needs healing, you can use those fairy nectars. So see me use that one on to Finn just to heal him up a bit and to get his MP up to full. Spider should be dying soon. If I wanted to, I could use another lull elixir with Aurora here. She really doesn't do a whole lot of damage herself, so it's okay to just kind of waste turns with her. I don't even bother using a MP potion onto herself. If I was really going fast, then I probably would, but her abilities only deal like 90 damage, so she's mostly just trying to be a support for Finn. Keep the boss slowed, keep dealing damage with Finn, and you should be able to get the kill soon. I think this is the final lightning strike. And there we go. So that fight can be really RNG. There's a strat where you use Nora instead of Rubella. It can be a little faster, but it's also a little more RNG because if somebody gets slowed or worse, paralyzed, it can be really devastating to the time. So I think the Rubella strat is a little safer and a little easier to manage if you're learning the game for the first time. Some more cutscenes to go through. Robert unfortunately gets shut down by the girl he likes. We play a sad song for him, and then he joins our party for the rest of the run. With this next boss is Griffin, and it's probably going to be the hardest fight to learn if you're just starting out. It can be really, if you don't use the strategy that I'm talking about here, the fight's pure RNG. It's really rough. It can kill your run outright. You can easily die. But with the strategy that we use, so this is the strategy I use if you want to have a good time with the run, I would highly recommend you learning this. It can be a little tricky to learn at first, but once you follow it, there's really no randomness to the fight except a very small amount, which is something we can easily deal with. So this section, there's not too many treasures to get. Try to follow the same path I take just to easily get up to the boss. So we go diagonal a bunch, and then we start going up a bunch. The wind will push us in the right spot, so we keep moving straight up. We can get these few treasure boxes. And we level up everybody. Same paths that you've been taking. The only really important thing is Nora needs to have Quick and All for this strategy to work. If Nora doesn't have Quick and All, you've done something incorrect, and I can't help you anymore. Give that rough Onyx to Aurora, and we're going to start the Griffin fight. Pay attention to the flower placements. Try not to pop the flowers accidentally. This first flower, you see me go up and over. Bring out Rubella to do Tumble All, and I bring out Nora to do a Lol All. I don't want to slow Griffin at this start. I want to wait for Rubella to interrupt everybody here. Everybody should get interrupted. If something dodged, anything dodged, just restart the fight. It sounds weird, but it's just part of the strategy we use. The important thing to note is you don't slow Griffin entirely here. You want to make sure Griffin gets its turn off before Rubella gets to the cast bar. Once Rubella gets to the cast bar, we swap in Aurora, do our Starlight All, and we do a Quicken All with Nora. At this point, keep Griffin slowed constantly until the next, in a few turns, we'll stop. It's important that Griffin doesn't get interrupted from this point on. With Nora, we do a Unstoppable onto Aurora so that she can get these Starlight Alls off. Sometimes these Banshees get interrupted, sometimes they don't. We swap into Finn here. We do a single Lightning Strike All. And at this point, you want to kind of stop slowing. So once Aurora gets up to this cast bar after Finn's taken his turn, stop slowing. We want to make sure Griffin gets the turn off before Aurora does that Starlight All. Otherwise, Griffin's going to get interrupted and we're going to have bad times. Finn's second turn, we switch into Rubella, do another Tumble All. We have some kind of crazy swapping to do. With Aurora, we swap to Finn. And then with Finn, we swap Rubella out for Aurora. So we can do another Starlight All. Sounds a little weird, but it works out. Because I got a crit on that bottom Banshee, it died first. I'm going to go through the rest of the fight assuming I didn't get that crit off, just so you can see what it looks like. So I'm going to just assume that both Banshees are up. We switch out Aurora for Nora, and with Nora we switch out Finn for Aurora. We do a final Starlight All. Sometimes with these this last Starlight All you might need to slow a little bit because your Unstoppable ran out. And now we just kill the Griffin with Petrifies and Hinders from Robert, which I'll be bringing out right now. Again, we try to avoid interrupting. With Nora, we can throw a damage potion onto Finn. Finn does a bunch of damage with Hinders, so if we get a crit with Finn, this fight goes super quickly. The paralyzes can eat up the slows, so just keep that in mind. Look at that damage on the crit. So this is the one RNG thing we have to pay attention for in this fight. Griffin can sometimes revive. It's kind of unfortunate when it happens. When it does, we just kill it with 2 spells. 2 Starlight All, or 2 Starlight single target Starlights, or 2 Lightning Strikes, or a combination of the 2. Will do enough damage to kill the Banshee. So just do that while you're still killing Banshee, or it's still killing Griffin. I ran out of mana with Aurora, so I switched into Finn. Robert ran out of MP, so switched to Rain Arrows. And unfortunately the fight doesn't end when Griffin dies. You have to actually kill everything. And that's the Griffin fight. So at this point you've probably been playing the game for maybe around an hour, maybe a little less, depending on how many times you've gone through this. So we got a break coming up. It's essentially a bunch of cutscenes coming up. Not quite there yet. Still some movement to do and some text to advanced. But you'll get a few minutes break to go get a drink, go to the bathroom, as you need to, and I'll let you know when it's safe to do that. I will be fast forwarding through those cutscenes, just because this is a tutorial video. You don't necessarily need to see those all over again. before I kind of said that Nora's maybe the best character, yeah, okay, I was lying. Oengus really is the best character in this game. He does everything we'd want him to. He does loads of physical damage. He has a tanking ability for us. So, as you might imagine, we use him in every fight coming up for the rest of the run. Some treasures to get. We can't get all of them, but if you do a little bit of backtracking, those are some safety treasures if you want to go and get them. But first, we have to rescue our friends. Interesting thing to note, you see Rebella and Robert here. You don't see Finn, but you don't need to worry because Finn is actually still in our party. Because we kind of glitched out the game doesn't really think Finn's in our party, even though he is. So the game doesn't tell Finn to leave our party when the other characters do. So we have this light puzzle coming up. If you do the first and second parts of the light puzzle at the same time, you get to save a little bit of time. So I do the light part and the switch kind of at the same time, and that lets me save some cutscenes. Normally there would be a cutscene after the first part, the second part, and then you'd get to do the third part afterwards. If we go off to the right here, there's a magic Stardust that we can get. And here we'll have the Oengus Skip. The reason why there was a slight obvious video editing there is this is a very, very new strat, and I had to record over this. So we just talk to Oengus. After he leaves our party, cue the side quest. We immediately leave the side quest zone. We move a little bit forward to pass I guess a good visual cue is past the second statue. Right here, we pause, we quit out just to the main menu, we load the game back up, and that's it. This is a bit of a time improvement over the old method where we kind of did this weird going into the fight, fleeing, going to get Oengus, going back to the fight, fleeing, and that would be the old method of the Oengus Skip. So this new method saves about 20 seconds. So we do some leveling up here. We gotta level up Oengus. Don't forget to use Stardust. So we have a bunch of Stardusts that we haven't used, and we give them to Oengus. If you have some spare oculi, you can give a tourmaline to Oengus in his armor slot, or an amethyst to his armor slot. This next fight is a little scary just because Oengus takes a bunch of damage. So if you have some extra oculi, feel free to use them to help keep Oengus alive. In any case, here's the Cordelia Fight. The Cordelia Fight is probably the next trickiest fight after Griffin. We want to start by using a Magic Defense Elixir on Oengus, and then taunting with Oengus. Magic Defense Elixir really helps out on the damage that Oengus takes in this fight. We really need to make sure Oengus doesn't die, and he takes a lot of damage. Robert's second turn, we hinder all. At this point, there's a few things that you can do with Oengus, but generally, especially if it's the first 3 times, I'd recommend just healing him up a little bit. Switch into Aurora, and Aurora uses Elevate damage on herself. If you can, try to sneak in a Quicken Elixir onto Aurora. Really helps out, though if you can't, if you're low on HP or the ATB doesn't line up, that's fine. And Aurora just wants to spend the rest of the fight, at least until the Wraith things die, just using Starlight All. And Oengus just needs to heal himself and making sure to retaunt. So taunt lasts 3 turns. So you taunt, 1 turn, 2 turn, 3 turn, taunt again. A note about the Wraiths is sometimes they do an AoE attack, and hopefully that doesn't happen when Aurora's taking her turn. Otherwise we get interrupted. So that was 3 turns. We taunt again. Oengus is probably going to spend the entire fight slowed from Cordelia. So it's getting a little close, but Oengus should get to the bar before anybody else does, so I get a chance to heal him up. Keep starlighting. So you know what Cordelia is going to do if she gathers strength. It's a more powerful slow attack. So it's just something to keep in mind. Interestingly enough, we got a crit on that that bottom Banshee. It was going to die anyway. Once the bottom Banshee dies, the bottom Banshee should always die first. The top Banshee actually has more HP than the bottom one. Then you just do a single target to Starlight to finish off the top Banshee. So once the Banshees are down, the fight's not nearly as difficult. So you just switch into Robert. Robert uses Hinder. Oengus uses his Cleave. Sometimes you can, if Oengus is slowed, you can throw a Quicken Elixir onto Oengus, which I decide to do here, and just to get rid of the slow, because the slow lasts a really long time, and Oengus's damage is a little bit higher than Robert's. Something to note, I'll make a note of it at the start of the fight in a text, but don't interrupt Cordelia. If you do interrupt Cordelia, she counters with a heal on everybody, and it heals for 9% of their max HP. If you do it, especially during phase 1, it's pretty bad. The Wraiths get healed, so just really avoid doing it. It takes some getting used to. In any case, we should be coming up to the end of the fight. And there we go. That's Cordelia. So if you've made it this far in the run, those past few bosses are, I would say, are the hardest to learn. So congratulations. You get rewarded with Aurora evolving. She's now maybe teenager Aurora, adult Aurora, I'm not too sure. She gets a little older, gets a new dress, and just continue on forward.
Umbra and Nox waited in the dark. Little time left to alter the hands of fate.
Treasures that we can get. Right above us here is some fairy nectars we can get if we want to. We just go straight ahead. There's a speed stardust. That's some revives there. We can get unnecessary, but really no point not to if you're uncomfortable with the second half of the game. It can be a little tricky. So here we meet again, and she's a really cool character casually, and unfortunately we do not use her at all for the run. We don't even bother picking her up. You notice I didn't even talk about Tristus. Again, we don't bother picking Tristus up. It takes some time to get him, and he's really not useful in terms of speedrunning. Maybe an expert will find a use for these two characters. There's a treasure up here, might as well get it. We really hope for sapphires there, so it's really good that we got them. And you saw me pick up the strength stardust on the right side of the room, hidden. There's some quicken elixirs there if we need them. Some damage elixirs there if we need them. You don't need to pick up that treasure, because, look, it's just some antidotes. We don't really use those. So we have another set of light puzzles coming up. This one can be a little tricky to do quickly. Do the bottom one first, just because it saves a little bit of time. That's an important treasure to pick up. 2 unstoppable elixir alls. So pick that one up. Don't forget that one. That's not optional. Just get it. Remember to get it. It doesn't take you time. So this last light puzzle, or this last Roman numeral 5, can be a little tricky to place quickly because you can't always see where you need to put it. So we kind of try to stay out here. I can't quite see it. Try to just learn the visual cue for it. It's right there. You see me circling on it. So before we go in the door, let's level everybody up. We have the same start with this fight, essentially as Cordelia. Hinder all, taunt. Don't slow the ogre at the start. We want to make sure he gets his turn off before Robert does. Otherwise, we end up interrupting him, and it's another boss that we don't want to interrupt the boss itself. After the hinder all, we switch to Finn. Finn will just use a bunch of lightning strike alls. If we can, try to use a damage elixir on the Finn with Oengus. It saves a turn from having us to do a little bit more damage. Keep the boss slowed. We need to do something with Oengus, so might as well just defend with him if he can't get a turn off. Prevents him from taking too much damage. Sometimes you will even need to use a potion to keep Oengus alive here. I got a little lucky and got a crit off on that top wolf. If that's the case, just use a single target spell on the bottom wolf to get the final kill. Otherwise, if you don't get that crit, crits are pretty low for Finn. Just use another lightning strike all, and both will die. So once all wolves are down, switch into Robert. I use a quicken elixir just to break off that slow. Otherwise, Oengus is never going to get a turn off. Once that's done, use hinder. Again, we don't want to interrupt here. If you interrupt, he does a counter attack which paralyzes, and it does a bunch of damage. So just don't do it. Just don't do it. The only reason I would say to ever do it is if he's going to hit a Oengus and the Oengus is like somehow going to die. But if that's the case, you might as well just use a potion. So we get rewarded with a tumbled onyx there. If you noticed in the last fight, we got a tumbled diamond, and we'll be using them in this section of the run. We'll be getting a whole bunch more of onyxes, and we do a little bit more crafting. There are a few things to pick up in this section. A bunch of safety boxes, but there are a few Stardust that we'll want to pick up as well. Get this MP Stardust. Try to avoid these lightning, this lightning crystal thing. keep going forward. This box that I get down here, completely optional. It's a safety box that has a bunch of healing tonics if you need them. If you don't, just keep moving forward. See me get that magic stardust and a magic defense stardust. Both of those are free, just go ahead and get them. And we'll be getting another cutscene. Immediately after our cutscene, we go right past the fountain and then go up. There's a hidden area that gives us a treasure that has a bunch of onyxes. It's really important that you don't forget this. I want to take this cutscene to remind you to not forget this. So cutscene's over. Right about here, go up, get this MP Stardust. You can't pick up that chest immediately because there's a little cutscene. So just kind of wait off to the side. So now that we got that, we can do some menuing. Do some more leveling for everybody. And we'll want to do some crafting, and you'll see in a second what crafting I do here. Again, don't forget Stardusts, since we went out of our way a little bit to get them. MP Stardusts go to Finn. Magic still goes to Aurora. Magic Defense still goes to Oengus. Crafting, 3 onyxes make a faceted onyx. We do that twice. And the diamond and onyx get put together to make a spinel. The spinel goes to accessory on Aurora, and the 2 faceted go to weapons on Aurora and Finn. You might as well put that other onyx, the rough onyx that we got, onto Robert, just because Hinder actually is spell damage, so it does increase the damage a little bit. It's not required, it barely adds anything, it probably doesn't even save any time. Now we have the Leviathan Fight. And you might guess we have the same start. Hinderal, Taunt. You'll want to do some slowing of the guys so that you really want to get this triple interrupt. It is okay to interrupt a Leviathan here. He doesn't have a counterattack. Switch in Aurora. And you actually want to do a single cleave all with Oengus. Just because it saves us a turn. We should need to do 2 Starlight Alls. We want to try to get as many interrupts off as possible. The Wraith at the top should be dead at this point, if you've gotten that cleave off. So you could switch into Finn here, but if you're just learning this fight, keep Oengus out until this gargoyle dies. It'll take a few turns. Do single target abilities on it. Keep Leviathan slowed. So now we bring into Finn. You notice I prepped a elevate damage onto Finn. And Finn just does single target lightning strikes. Leviathan is really slow. You notice I got a crit there. Look at the damage on that crit. 1,100 damage. Aurora just buffs up Finn. Again, Leviathan's really slow on his turns. Should be very easy to get interrupts off. But if you don't get interrupts off, he can do a lot of damage. Sometimes you can do a Starlight with Aurora, but mostly with Aurora you want to be being a support for Finn. Notice I take a turn, use a magic potion onto Finn. Really you should be using the magic, the potent magic potions, but in that case it didn't matter. And that fight went by really well because of that crit. If you don't get a crit, it might take an extra turn. But crits on this fight and the next fight are really, really useful. There's a safety, quote-unquote, safety treasure that we can get here, but if you're low on the Nicholas bar, you might not be able to interrupt this guy so that he'll get that attack off on you. So try to avoid that. I made that simple mistake. But we get rewarded with some fairy nectars. It's optional if you feel like you need them for the last 2 fights. And we have our last light puzzle coming up. You have to do them in order. You're supposed to pay attention to the phases of the moon, but just do the first one, the third one, the second one, and the fourth one from the left. So first from the left, third from the left, second from the left, fourth from the left to open the door. This one's a little tricky because there aren't any great visual cues to do the light puzzle, so you just kind of have to get good at it. In this section, we just want to go through the puzzles as quickly as we can. There's a magic stardust off to the bottom right there. Try to avoid getting hit by these spikes too much, though don't worry about it if you get hit once or twice. Don't die, though, because they'll send you back to the start of the section. Just take your time. Do it slowly if you need to. There's a lot of these treasures that aren't really useful, so don't waste your time. In this section, there'll be the poison gas cloud, so you constantly take damage. So try to keep an eye on your health if you got hit by a bunch of those spikes. If you need to, just use a potion. If you have any normal healing potions, just use one. We will want to make sure we're healed up for the next boss. So we go off to the left or right, doesn't matter which. Ignore the treasures. The left one has a monster, so just be sure to interrupt it. 2 cranks is all we need for both sides. So you don't need to crank it all the way. Just give it 2 cranks. Try not to run into any enemies. Keep an eye on your health. So I'm getting kind of low, and there's after the poison cloud there's some spikes. So if you're getting really low, the spikes actually do substantial damage. I would hate to have anybody just have to redo this whole section. You really don't need to get any of these things except for that strength stardust. So look at me, I'm getting really low, but just take your time. Those treasures are really useless, but I got them just so you could see. Those final 3 treasures, though, get them. They're free. They're actually important, so don't not get them. We have some leveling to do, and we have some stardust to do, and we have some oculi to do. So oculi, we just need to make sure Oengus gets that faceted citrine. If you've gotten some sapphires throughout the run, go ahead and do something with them. Put them onto Robert and Oengus for the Nox Fight. Can make it a lot easier. If you only have one, throw it onto Oengus. Then we have the Nox Fight, which is again another scary dragon lady. There's a lot of those in this game. We have a slightly different opening in this fight. We actually use those unstoppable elixirs now, but we do still open up with Oengus and Finn. If it's your first time or you're not comfortable with this fight, use Taunt on Oengus. Makes the fight a little bit more manageable. And with Robert, we use those unstoppable elixirs. This allows us to just not worry about getting interrupted. Having those sapphires can really help out this fight because they hugely reduce the amount of damage that Oengus and Robert take, and all their damage is water damage, so it works on everything. And just use your Hinderalls, your Cleavalls. If Oengus drops a little low with Robert, try to use it with Robert. Use a healing potion. You should have plenty of those. If you really need to, you have the potent fairy nectars. Use those. And just hope for crits. And notice this is another fight where it's pretty fine to interrupt the main boss here. So just go ahead and do it. She only does unstoppable. And if we get some crits, you'll see one tentacle going down before the other tentacle. So once both tentacles are down, usually around this point she'll gather strength. Sometimes she does it earlier, sometimes she does it later. We bring out Finn, as you might have mentioned. She's in water, she's weak to lightning. With Aurora, we do another elevate damage. And Aurora is going to be another supporting character in this fight as well. So just keep Finn alive, keep his mana, his MP up, elevate damage him, quicken him, and he'll do a whole bunch of damage. If you need Aurora to do something, she can sneak in a Starlight or two. As long as Finn has enough MP, that is perfectly fine to do. And you want to just keep the fight slowed. So we really want Nox to gather strength here, because if you remember this fight casually, she does gather strength, and then once she gets to the bar, she does like a one-hit kill move, nearly one-hit kill move. But it's a very, very, very slow attack. So we have plenty of time to kill her in the meantime. Sometimes you will see her not gather strength for a long time, or sometimes she gathered strength on her first turn, so we can sometimes see her getting that ability off before we manage to kill her, if we haven't slowed her enough. So in those cases, Finn should have enough HP to survive a hit. Just make sure Finn stays alive. If she hasn't gathered strength, just try to keep Finn alive. Maybe even bring out a Oengus to have a taunt up. But those cases are pretty rare. It's a pretty straightforward fight once the tentacles are down. And if you have those sapphires, the first phase of the fight can be really, really made easy. So, second to last boss down. We have one more boss left in the game. And as you might imagine, before the final boss, we have some cutscenes to deal with. So, after a little text here, if you need to calm your nerves before the final boss, you'll have a few minutes to do so. Don't forget about these text boxes, though. So since we have a few minutes of cutscene, let's just fast forward through them. I hope you're back by this point because we have some text boxes to skip through before the final cutscene and the final boss. If you happen to die in this last fight, you'll have to do this cutscene over again, unfortunately. It's not too long. Again, it's only this part of the cutscene. You won't have to do that the past few minutes. So just this flying up to confront Umbra and have a little chat with her, and we'll get all prepped up for the Umbra fight. So with this final fight, we essentially have the same opening as the Nox fight. We bring out Oengus, taunt, we bring out Robert, use an unstoppable elixir. Unstoppable elixir all. These ads are really annoying. They are jerk birds. They do a lot of damage. They have an AoE called Prey. That does a bit of damage to both, and it's a setback, so you want to pray for no praise. Second turn, we do a hinder all, and if you can, cleave all with Oengus, but you'll probably just need to heal with him, and that's perfectly okay. You want to make sure Oengus stays alive. If you die in this fight, you have to do that cutscene over again, so it's not something you want to do. So you bring in Aurora, do a single elevate damage onto Oengus just because his damage is really ridiculous in this fight. And then switch back out to Robert, but again, keep Oengus alive. If you need to use those potent healing potions, typically you want to do it from Robert just because Oengus's damage is much greater than Robert's. But just do whatever you need to do to keep Oengus alive. Once these birds die, we'll switch Robert out for Aurora. You should have plenty of Aniculus juice with the flowers, so just use those on Umbra herself. We saw one bird go down. Typically, I bring out Aurora once one of the birds goes down. But in this fight, just because you're learning it, I would keep both Robert and Oengus out until both birds are down. And then you can bring out Aurora. You can do elevate damage once on herself before you start doing starlights. Try to get as many interrupts off as you can. It's perfectly fine to interrupt her. She just buffs herself up. If you want to be a little more risky and you're comfortable with this fight, you can, instead of using Oengus in this part, you can bring out Finn to do some lightning strikes. But once phase 2 of the fight, you've started phase 2, the fight's pretty straightforward. You don't really have huge danger of dying. Even if Umbra decides to attack, it shouldn't kill anybody unless somebody's already really low. You should have plenty of revives. The only thing you may have to watch out for is Umbra herself using a revive. And then you can just cleave all the bird that comes out. We don't stop the timer just yet. We instead wait till after the fight's over. Once the screen turns white, stop the timer. So, congratulations, you've just completed your first run of Child of Light, New Game, Any Percent. As you can see, my current personal best is a 1:18:06, which is a current world record for this category. I would set your first goal to just clearing the game, getting through it. Don't worry too much about time. Just work on getting through the end of the game. Once you've gotten a little bit of practice in, I would set the first timed goal to around 1 hour and 45 minutes. I think that's a solid time that you can get to reasonably. It gives you a lot of leeway to make some mistakes, even if the mistakes are a little big. You can die in a few fights, and that'll be okay. Just restart the fight, get back into it.
Lickety split, the group split up.
I hope you enjoyed this video and found it useful. I hope to see you streaming Child of Light, NewGame, any %, or I hope to see you on the leaderboard at speedrun.com/COL. If you have any questions, just post them below. I'll try to get to you. I'll be running this game at SGDQ 2016 actually, which is in early July. I hope you watch me for that. In the meantime, you can catch me streaming at twitch.tv/TakazeTV, or you can follow me on Twitter at GGTakaze. Quick shout out to the Child of Light community. They helped me when I was a new runner, and we have a pretty open community. If you'd like to join our Discord, just send me post below, send me a tweet, message me on Twitch. If you're an active runner or just interested in the run, we'd love to have you. Again, thanks for watching. Bye.